Hi, Stephen Essa here, and welcome to this exclusive interview with Cathi Hargaden from wealthyspaces.com, all the way from London. G'day, Cathi, how are you?
I'm fine, Stephen, thank you very much.
Absolutely, great to have you here in Australia. Now, how many times have you been here now?
I've been here 3 times.
3 times.
Yep.
Great to grab you. You've just launched the reason we're interviewing Cathi today, she just launched her brand new webinar on the internet, 5 steps for creating wealth in your life thanks to Feng Shui. It's quite an amazing topic. Everyone talks about it. Everyone thinks they know a lot about it. And we're hoping to do a little interview with you to, number one, tell you about the webinar. If you haven't seen it already, then register for Cathi's webinar. It's amazing, great content, and many of my subscribers have loved it, and listening to you and your accent and the content as well. Tell us a bit of a background, how you got started in Feng Shui and what led you to become such an expert.
Okay, well, I grew up in a city in the north of England and went to school there, and found that the environment was quite harsh, but I didn't realise that until I went to a school outside the city where it was full of trees and full of abundance, full of beautiful flowers, and I realised where it come from. There were less opportunities, and even the pupils in the suburbs were a lot more confident and assertive. So all right away from a very early age, I was aware of how environments affected people emotionally, mentally, their aspirations. And then many years later, I have travelled all over the world and seen how environments impact upon people and their aspirations. I was in an apartment flat in Manchester, and a lady walked in and she looked at my apartment and she said, "Wow, you've got great Feng Shui." And I thought, great Feng Shui, what's that? It wasn't double Dutch, it was double Chinese. And so I made up my mind to go and pursue it and find out more and more about it. And the more I found out, it became like a spider's web. It led me to all many different avenues, like sacred geometry, the design of some of the Islamic buildings and art there, and space clearing, what other cultures, indigenous populations, how they treat their own environments. And it just went on and on and on, and it's endless. And so then I started teaching it, and I've taught it up to university level. And it was the feedback from the clients, or the students, that they were telling me that when they did this, this and this, how it impacted on their lives. And so, because I went into the health profession to empower people, I realised that the tool that really empowered people was Feng Shui, because it gave people control over their own lives, and it also made them think, what is it they want to attract into their life? So it's been a great tool for me personally as well as other people who've attended the classes. Absolutely,
absolutely, and you're such a good teacher. Everyone who's attended the webinar so far loves it, and loves the way you've broken it down, because it's quite a lot of people think it's very simple, don't they? They think it's just a matter of where you put things. That's a common misconception, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, Stephen. People, they may read the book or hear something and they'll say, oh, I'll just put the frog here with the gold coin. And these statues are all very nice and traditional as well, Chinese. But there are principles. This comes from a 4,000-year-old book called the I Ching, which means the Book of Changes. And basically it's a demonstration of how everything in our lives is changing from the day we're born to the day we die. And it's being able to harness the chi, or the energy, in our own lives so that it works for us in the best way possible. So understanding some of those very interesting principles, you get to actually change your environment the way you want to. And whether you want to put lots of Chinese artifacts in it is up to you. But there are other ways that you can do it. It doesn't have to have symbols there that you don't always relate to. So there are a lot of myths, and I've seen a lot of comedy cards that people write, and you know, that's great to be humorous about it as well. You can even put a message in your own environment that is humorous, you know, about the kind of life you want. But it's very precise as well. And there are many, many different facets to it, and it takes you to all different parts, not only of the world, but to esoteric secret knowledge, because this was an elitist form of education for the higher echelons in Chinese society, and it still is the higher echelons of the top corporations right across the world. Google, Apple, British Airways, they all use this form of knowledge, and that's what attracts the money and the wealth and the good fortune into those corporations.
Awesome. So what would you say to somebody who has had bad luck, or what would be looked at as bad luck when it comes to creating wealth, or they've had wealth and then they've lost it, or they just haven't been able to actually get to the level of wealth that they want to? Is it true, according to your beliefs, to say that they haven't attracted that wealth because they're not using Feng Shui? Could they start to use Feng Shui to actually attract wealth in their life, or is it predestined, as many people believe?
Well, you're touching there on some of the philosophy of Feng Shui, because they believe that there's three types of luck. One which is astrological, it's in the stars, heaven. The second one is to do with earth chi, which is earth luck, and that is the environment and how to manifest that. And the third one is people luck, how you actually attract it to yourself. So looking at the environment, yes, before you even start utilising the principles of Feng Shui, there are two major facets that I could actually offer to people now, and that is clear your clutter. People often want to bring the Feng Shui into an already hoarded house. They don't want to look at what's there in front of them, and often it's because they don't want to look what's inside themselves. So, you know, it's a very metaphorical kind of philosophy as well. Things aren't always how they seem. So you have to read the scenery and read your environment in a way that there is a message there. So clutter clearing is one aspect which we certainly have in the West. We're overburdened with things that we consume, and our space is becoming smaller and smaller. So this gives us the impression that we're all living in very cluttered, filled properties. The other second one is looking at the energetic debris left behind by previous people that have lived in your home. So space clearing is a must, it's essential before you even start Feng Shui, is being aware of what makes you feel a certain way in a building or your home or your workplace. What is it that's making you feel depressed, or things aren't quite right, or eerie, or suspicious? There will be something there.
There's the interesting point that you mentioned that, because I remember when I came back from living in Los Angeles in 2005, I rented a place from some friends who moved away, and a year later when they came back, they said, "Did you notice anything odd about the house?" I said, "Yeah, it was like some strange vibes in the place." And she said, "When we moved away, me and my husband fought a lot less. They didn't argue as much in the house, and then within 2 years of being back there, they were divorced."
Well, you'll find this, that there's certain properties, no matter who moves into them, they live out the same patterns, because all energy is pattern, and there's patterns lying within every environment. So if you don't cleanse that environment, then you're just living the patterns that the previous person lived out, and some of them can be good, and it's not just the previous people. Sometimes we ourselves exude negative patterns or self-sabotaging thoughts ourselves, so sometimes we have to protect ourselves against us. So regularly space clearing the energy within your own home is a great way, great tool to kind of feel replenished, rejuvenated, and start afresh. And
I think in your webinar you said that the Aboriginals of Australia would do their own form of space clearing.
Yeah, they use some form of using the sagebrush, and I know in the Native American Indians and in the Indian subcontinent they use incense and herbs and many other different forms of actually cleansing. Some cultures in Bali they use sound. So there are many different ways of changing the vibration of a room and making it and setting it up for you to be more open to things. Because it's like with Feng Shui, it's like giving you a different pair of glasses. You're going to start seeing the world in a different way, you know, and often it's because of people's perceptions that makes them not so lucky, or they're looking for the same pattern, the very same pattern that didn't bring them what they wanted in the first place. So energy, wherever thought goes, energy flows. Remember that. That's a good one. Wherever you're thinking, that's where the energy goes.
Absolutely. So if you're thinking negative thoughts, then the energy you're putting in,
the energy will go into that.
That's right. That's right. One of the things that when I started with my internet business, there was a lot of bills coming in. There was a lot of debt coming in. There was a lot of we'd purchased bad property investments, and there was a lot of debt. And I chose to focus on building a brand new business instead of, and there was people who owed us a lot of money. Instead of focusing on that, because every time I would focus on that, I would get these negative feelings. I'd get overwhelmed, and I wouldn't be able to do any creative work. So I would focus 90% of my time on building this new business, and 10% of the time. And one of my friends came over and said, "What's this pile of stuff?" I go, "They're bills." And I wouldn't even open them because I knew what was there. So spend 90% of your time on what you want to create and creating, and 10% of your time on that, because it's focusing on the solution as well.
That's right, yes. And sometimes when you put the focus on the creativity, then other things just drop. They drop away because you're taking yourself to a different level, a different vibrational level. And I resonate with what Stephen says. I too have had similar experience, and I could see myself focusing on getting the old money back, and I thought, well, let's focus on something creative, and that changes and alters how you even talk, how you sound, how you come across, and and things will resolve themselves in time, but also in vibrational measurements as well.
Absolutely. Guys, if this sounds interesting to you at all, if you want to know how to unblock the blockages that are stopping you from wealth, or you want to create more wealth in your life, then register now for Cathy's webinar, 5 steps to creating wealth in your life thanks to Feng Shui. Cathi, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you here in Australia, and we'll see you soon. Register for the webinar right now.